We're going to be in Matthew this morning. Matthew chapter 2. The Bible tells us that there's nothing new under the sun, and you all have heard this story over and over, I'm sure. I really don't have anything amazing to add to it, but we're going to look at it this morning, talk about it a little bit, and enjoy what God has done for us. I'm going to begin reading in verse 1, Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "Now when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where Christ should be born. And they said unto him, In Bethlehem of Judea. For thus it is written by the prophet, And thou, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, art not the least among the princes of Judea, for out of thee shall come a governor, that shall rule my people Israel. Excuse me. Then Herod, when he had privately called the wise men, inquired of them diligently what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, and said, Go and search diligently for the young child. And when ye have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship him also. And when they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. And when they were come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned of God in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed into their own country another way. You know, as we begin to look at this and begin to think about this, we come into this Christmas season again this year, and I want to ask you this morning, what do you seek? What is it that you seek? We think about the world that we live in and all the commercialization, I guess you could say, of Christmas. And people are seeking that perfect Christmas, the perfect decoration. You know, they want to have their house decorated in just the pristine way. And I want to say, by the way, isn't it beautiful in here? And I want to say thank you to all that had a hand in it. I appreciate that. A lot of times I forget to do that, but I want to say thank you for those things. It is beautiful. And that's sometimes what people seek, is that decoration. I know that wasn't what was being sought in here, but that's what we seek sometimes, isn't it? We seek that perfect gift. We have an idea of what we want to give someone, or we have someone that's special to us, or something of that nature, and we're looking for that perfect gift to give them. Or maybe that just the perfect Christmas experience. We want to do something great or grand, or go someplace that will bring us that experience, or things about this, things like this in our lives. The thing is, when we're looking for a lot of those things, it brings something different than that perfect experience, doesn't it? It brings stress, and worry, and doubt. Me and Kay were speaking last night about the things that we need to get done, and how much time we have them to do it in, she looked at me with a little bit of panic in her eyes, and she said, "How are we going to do it? We don't have enough time. We don't have enough time." We have a concern, a worry because of the limited amount of time maybe we have to accomplish things or get things done. We worry about that perfect gift or that decoration. Is people going to like it? Are they going to enjoy the experience of it as much as we think they will, or things of this nature? And then it leaves us worried about how we're going to pay for all those things. How in the world are we going to get through this? How are we going to pay for the things that we've bought? It leaves doubt in our minds, doesn't it? When we're seeking after those things. The thing it is, in this story, we see the Magi, the wise men, seeking after something. The men from the east here. They were seeking after something. And they had a purpose in what they were seeking. The Magi were skilled in philosophy, in medicine, in religion, in science. They were soothsayers, interpreters of dreams. They had a lot of education. And they were looking for something specific. We don't know exactly where they came from. The commentators think maybe Mesopotamia, which is ancient Babylon. And when you think about that, we can automatically think, well, they would have had a knowledge of God and God's Word because of where the Israelites were taken into captivity there in Babylon. We think about the Hebrew children, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel, and all the things that went on with this. So they would have had a knowledge of these things. And they knew the prophecy about this. In Numbers 24:17, they knew this. It says, "I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh. There shall come a star out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroy all the children of Seth." They knew this prophecy and the things that were come about because of this, and they had a particular I'll get it out in a minute. They had a particular interest in astrology and the things in the sky, and they noticed this special star. They noticed these things and began to put things together, began to put things in alignment there, and begin to seek this spiritual journey to find this Christ child. They had a purpose in what they were seeking. You know, we in our lives today, we need to have a purpose in what we're seeking. A lot of times it's just to find that perfect gift or decoration or experience, and those things will always leave us empty. But we need to have a specific purpose of finding that Christ child as we come about into this Christmas season. You know, I always tell this little story. When I first started teaching, right after I got saved, gave my life to God, I started teaching a juniors class, which was 8 to 12-year-olds. And at Christmas time, when it rolled around the first year that I was teaching that class, I began to ask them what were their favorite traditions. You know, what was it that they loved to do at Christmas time? And we went through the class, and the class began to tell me all their traditions and the things that were going on. And at that time, I had two young ladies in there, and they were missionaries. Their parents were missionaries. They were from Brazil. And they began to tell me their Christmas story, the things that they done at Christmas and the things that excited them. The one thing that they said excited them the most was not getting to run down and see what Santa Claus had brought, was not getting to tear into all the packages, was not getting to do all those things, but the tradition that they had as a family to gather together and read the Christmas story. Luke chapter 2. You know, that touched my heart and sort of brought conviction to my heart, I guess, because sometimes we fail to put the important part at the center. And we are looking at all these outside things that I mentioned, the decoration, the gifts, the experience itself. We're looking at those things, and we fail to put the most important part right in the middle. And that sort of brought conviction to me, because they reminded me that most important part needed to be in the center of my life. So we have to understand what it is we seek. What is it you seek this Christmas season? The next thing I want us to notice in this story is, where do we look? You know, sometimes we look in the wrong places, as I mentioned already, with the things that we are seeking, the gifts and the decoration and the experience. And we know from these men here that there's a possibility for us to look in the wrong places, because it tells us here that when they saw these things, they came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he that is King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." And when Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled. They went first to where we in our minds would automatically imagine would be the place to look, right? If you look around in the world we live, what do we see? We see all these ads about things that we need and perfect gifts to give and the decorations that we need to put up. And we see all these perfect things going on. And automatically in our mind, we run to these things and we think that's what we need to have a perfect Christmas. We look in the wrong place sometimes. Just as these men looked at where they thought a king would be, the palace. I mean, that's automatically good thinking, right? If you're looking for a king, where do you look? You look in the palace. But that wasn't where this king was. We sometimes look at the wrong places in our adventures through Christmas also. We can't find what we're looking for in the many markets that are around. We can only find it in one place. You know, these men had traveled great distances through a lot of perils to find this child. They had put themselves to through great trials. And as I thought about this, I thought about ourselves sometimes, how we put ourselves through great trials trying to find that gift. Again, looking in the wrong place. We went shopping Friday night, and I love shopping at Christmas time. Now, I'm a people watcher. And when you walk through the stores, you see all these people in great panic. You know, we still got a few days. I mean, it ain't Christmas Eve yet. You don't start till Christmas Eve, right? But they were in great panic. They had a task that was laid in front of them, and you could see the panic in their face. And as we were shopping, there was probably even a little panic in our face. What do we get this one? What do we get that one? What is it that would be that perfect gift? We get so focused on the wrong thoughts and on the wrong things that we go to the wrong place, don't we? Just as these wise men did. They went to the wrong place. See, just the same as they didn't find their gift at this palace, the thing that they were seeking for, we're not going to find it in the tinsel and gifts. They won't fulfill that place in our hearts. So we have to look in the right place. And when we have found that right place to look, what do we bring? What do we bring? We look on down here to verse 9, and it says, "And when they had heard the king, they departed. And lo, the star, which they saw in the east, went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. And when they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. Let's start there. What do we bring? When these men found what they were looking for, it says that they had exceeding great joy. Now, when we were shopping the other night, I don't remember seeing that. I don't remember seeing anyone in the store that was overjoyous, that was praising God, that was lifting their hands, that were in a mood that would uplift anybody around them. I don't remember seeing that. So the first thing we need to bring sounds like, or maybe the first thing we receive when we get there, is exceeding great joy. Something that those other things we mentioned won't bring. And it says, and when they came into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother. Now they had found what they were looking for. It says they come into the house. Now, I know at Christmas we tie all these together. You see the stable and the baby in the manger and the wise men coming in from behind the stable on their camels, and it's all sort of crammed together. But that's not exactly the way it played out. This child, they think, was probably getting close to 2 years old at this point in time. Jesus was not a little baby anymore. He was getting close to those terrible twos, if that was possible for Jesus. I don't know that was possible. But it wasn't just a baby. It says when they came into the house, they saw Mary and this child, this king that they'd been looking for. This object that they had been striving to find. That they had brought herself from great distances and great peril to seek. And it says when they saw them, they saw the young child and Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. You see, when they got there and found what they wanted, they give of themselves. They worshiped. That's what we need to bring this year as we come to worship the King. Romans 12, verses 1 and 2 says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. You see, whenever we come to God, the one thing that we need to give first is ourselves. We get things out of order sometimes. When we're even coming and seeking God, sometimes we get things out of order. We do things in a way that is not proper. But these men knew the proper way. When they came in, the first thing they did was worship. They gave of themselves. And that's what we need to do. Give of self. And it says, and when they had opened their treasures, they presented unto him gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. You see, the next thing we need to give is gifts. These men give gifts. For us, our gifts, the first thing we need to give as far as gifts go is our time and our talents. We need to give of ourselves first. We need to give from inside. This is the first thing we need to give. And then we need to give like these men did, sacrificially. They give gold, frankincense, and myrrh. A lot of times we get things mixed up, don't we? We get things all messed up in our lives, and the first thing we want to give is the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh. We don't want to give of ourselves. We don't want to acknowledge ourselves as part of it. We don't want to give self. We don't want to give part of ourselves. We'll just give a little gold and that's good enough. You know, I was that way at one time. I thought, well, I'll go to church, I'll put a little tithe money in the offering plate, and I'm all good. Didn't want to give of myself, didn't want to give of my time, didn't want to give of me. Just give a little gold. That'd be good enough. We say that's not what God's looking for. He's not looking for the gold and the frankincense and the myrrh. I think that's the reason it was last year. These men gave of themselves. They worshipped Him. They gave of their time and talents. It doesn't tell us how long it took them to get there. It may have taken months or even years. You know, when they first saw the star, it could have been when Jesus was born, and He's nearly 2 years old. It could have took a couple of years for Him to get there. They gave of self. They gave of their talents. They gave everything that they had to get there, and then they gave sacrificially once they got there. That's what God desires out of us. And when we look at what they give, those things that they gave sacrificially were appropriate. See, a lot of times in these times, you couldn't approach a king without a gift. So to come with gold was an appropriate gift for a king. So they recognized that He was the King of kings and Lord of lords. Frankincense was something that was used in the temple by the priests. So they brought the frankincense in recognition that He is our high priest and presented it to Him. He's the one making intercession for us. He's the one going between us and God. The one saying, Father, I know, old Gary messed up again, but he's mine. I covered him. Forgive me. He's making intercession for us. And the myrrh is a spice that they used when they embalmed bodies for their dead. So it tells us that He was our propitiation, our sacrifice, our payment, our ladder to get from where we are to God. These are appropriate gifts to give to the King. So, what is it that we bring? What is it that we bring? You know, sometimes maybe we don't have gold and frankincense and myrrh. Maybe we don't feel like we have any talents or the time. But we absolutely have self that we can give. And that's the first step. You see, we have to give self to God before anything else comes about, anything else matters. All these perfect things that we've been looking for and all the places we've been looking really don't matter until we come to the place where we recognize God, our Savior, Jesus Christ. And when we recognize Him, when we found what we are seeking for, what do we give? What do we bring? Do we give self? Have you given of self today? Have you given yourself to Him? And if you've given yourself to Him, what about your time and talents? Have you given those to Him? You see, when I came and I give my life to God, I experienced that. I give myself to Him. I can show you the place where I give my heart to God. I can take you to that very spot. pretty easy for me to find. I step on it every night, right before I get into bed. Because it was beside my bed that I gave my heart to God. I can take you and show you. When you come down next September, I'll show you if you want to see. It ain't nothing fancy, but it's an amazing place. I can show you. I give myself to Him. And then He started wanting a little bit of time and talents. You all have heard this before. When I was asked the first time if I'd like to teach, I said, no, I don't want to teach. You don't want me to teach. Nobody wants to hear anything I've got to say. And that's still true. Nobody wants to hear anything I've got to say. But God got to deal with my heart. And I said, Lord, if you want me to teach, I'll teach. He gave me the opportunity, and I said no. I didn't have the talent. Didn't feel like I had the time to study and do the things needed. I said no. And then I finally said, after He dealt with my heart, I said, Lord, you give me another opportunity, I won't say no. And as I said, my first attempt at teaching was with those young people, 8 to 12-year-olds. I may have learned as much from them as they learned from me. I don't know. I'll never forget the first day. I was in there and I stood before them. And one of them told me, I don't remember which one it was, but one of them spoke up and they said, hey Gary, they said, if you run out of anything to say, just listen. And I said, just listen, what are you talking about? And they said, the walls are thin. You can hear the teacher next door. They give me some advice right off the bat. But God took my feeble talents and my minimal amount of time that I felt like I had, and He used it for His glory. What is it that you bring today? What is it that you bring? If you would stand with me.